I want to speak today about the power of words. Should be good. We have a lot of word people here, so let's hope this produces some good feedback and thought process. This came out of a conversation that we had this week about words, and we spoke a lot about the power of certain words and how we hold words, how we use words with each other, and how we hear words. So all of these really are important. It's a big deal how we use words, even at the same time as we know that the truth is beyond words and letters. The truth is beyond words. The truth cannot possibly be expressed in words. The truth. My teacher once said, all words are lies. Anyway, where's the truth then? Where do we connect? So all words are lies, in a sense. And yet, at the same time, words have power. Sometimes enormous power in the way that we use them. And at the center of all of this is, as always, me, meaning us, not only me, but our ego or our own ego attachment. How do we hear words and how do we use words? As long as there's a me in the middle, as long as there's a filter of my own ego, there's always a risk, and there can even be a danger. So let's back up a little bit. Excuse me. Let's back up a little bit and go to an old story first, and then we'll move to a new story. The old story is the story of Unmon, one of our Zen ancestors. It's an old story that comes to us from China. And Unmon, our Dharma ancestor, is speaking. The story comes out of a collection of stories called the Gateless Gate. Unmon said, "The world is vast and wide. Why do you put on your 7-piece robe at the sound of the bell? The world is vast and wide. So why do you put on your 7-piece robe at the sound of the bell?" The world is vast and wide, isn't it? It's a lot bigger than we can really fathom. And it can seem bigger than we can possibly understand. If we really stretch out over the world, we not only cross different languages, we cross cultures, vast and wide. There was a Zen teacher I knew once who often liked to talk about the power of words by demonstrating. They had learned to say a curse word in a different language. And by demonstrating, I think they really enjoyed saying this curse word in a way that people didn't understand. So I'm not going to do that. However, our bodies hear things. Our bodies know. And sure, those things that we hear come in through our ears and through our cognition. And they have to have meaning before they start to have power. So in a sense, if we take a random curse word and use it, the power only happens when it's in a language that we understand And when we understand that that word has been used to wound, because words are used to wound. Words can be used to wound, and they are used to wound. So the world is vast and wide. So many cultures, so many languages. This week in one of our discussions, we crossed some cultures, even only in America, United States. And we learned that the perception of certain words is different depending on which culture you come from. And maybe we always know this, but sometimes we can push away from this a little bit. In this case, the word that was used on social media. And it's a word that it's not new. It's not newly used, but it's a word that came into prominence this week because somebody very well known used a word. And what they did was very cleverly take quite a wounding word, a word that usually starts with an N, and they transposed the N into an R. Very sneaky, huh? So then there's the question. Was that word really being used with the intention to wound? Oh, it's just an innocent word. You know, y'all are making this up. It's not really a bad word. It's not alluding to that bad word that we all know is a bad word. We all know that that's a wounding word. We all know that that word that starts with an N and not an R is a word that has been used to kill. Not to mince words here. It's a killing word. And this week when I said that out loud, people were surprised. People were surprised. This word that starts with an R this week alludes to a word that we know has been used to kill. So when I said that out loud, people expressed surprise. Wow. That's what that word really means. Because what I said was that I grew up in the South. I heard this word used out loud. And what that word means, the word that starts with an N, is I want to kill you. On some level. Sometimes quite literally. Maybe often. Maybe always. Quite literally. This word that starts with an N means I want to kill you. Whether we recognize that or not, our bodies know. This week in our discussion, I read out loud the statement that was made in the public sphere that used the word starting with an R. And when people heard that word starting with an R instead of an N, I asked, what does your body feel like? What does your body say when you hear this word? And I'm going to say that word that starts with an R, knowing. But I want you to take it in. The word that starts with an R that was used by the former president of the United States is rigors. What does your body do when you hear that word? We know what's intended here. We know the meaning of this word. This is a word that's used to hurt. So given that all words are lies, given that the only power of words comes through how they're used and our intention, what then do we do? How do we meet this word? The world is vast and wide. Why do you put on your 7-piece robe at the sound of the bell? In the mornings when we are done with the first 2 periods of Zazen just before service, usually I ring the bell and we chant the robe chant and we put on our robes. So this one that I'm wearing is a 7-paneled robe. The ones that lay people wear around their necks, called a rakusu, is a 5-paneled robe. And the meaning is, if everything is so spacious, beyond words and letters, huge, vast, and wide, why then do you put this on? Why do we do anything? And that's what I want to talk about today. Why do we do anything at all? Or how do we respond? How do we make our way in the world, knowing that the world is vast and wide? Mumonkan's comment. In studying Zen, you should not be swayed by sounds and forms. Even though you attain insight when hearing a voice or seeing a form, this is simply the ordinary way of things. Don't you know that real Zen commands sounds? It actually says the real Zen student in this particular translation, which kind of cracks me up, but I'm not sure why. I think we have this idea of being a real Zen student, but nevertheless, I'll use it. Don't you know that the real Zen student commands sounds, commands forms, is clear-sighted at every event and free on every occasion? The real Zen student. Are you a real Zen student? Do you command sounds, control forms? Are you clear-sighted at every event and free on every occasion? Granted you are free, just tell me. Does the sound come to the ear or the ear go to the sound? If both sound and silence die away, at such a juncture, how could you talk of Zen? While listening with your ear, you can't tell. When hearing with your eye, you're truly intimate. And there's a verse. With realization, things make one family. Without realization, things are separated in 1,000 ways. Without realization, things make one family. With realization, things are separated in 1,000 ways. One family. Within one family, things are separated in 1,000 ways and also come together in 1,000 ways. What this means is that we are all one family, one human, world, universal family. We are all connected, and the things we do in our daily life matter. There is freedom in knowing that there is no bounds. Everything is included, and there is freedom in restraint, in using our words well, in speaking with kindness, in really noticing the effect of how we speak to others. This is truly beyond words and letters, not just way out here in the absolute, blissed out all the time. Everything is so great. That word doesn't matter to me. It's just blah, blah, blah. That's true on one hand. And on the other hand, people are being hurt. So then how do we respond? How do we hear? How do we hear without our big, loud ego jumping in and making it all about me? Where's your heart? In the world that's vast and wide, we're not swayed by sounds and forms. We also don't ignore. We hear everything. We see, we take in, we understand the connection. And in the world of day to day, we know that the details matter, and then we take good care to command sounds, control forms, to be clear-sighted, to use our words well, to honor that we're one family and not create division. And this word, riggers, is used to create division. Ignoring this word is a dilemma. On the one hand, we don't want to give it more power. And on the other hand, we don't want to pretend that it doesn't exist. How then do we respond? This came up for me as I wondered this week why some newspapers carried that story and others did not. And I could see both sides. Oh, you don't want to amplify that. That's pretty dangerous stuff. You know, you don't want to give it more voice and really spread the flames. On the other hand, ignoring it allows it to grow as well. I found some comfort in looking at a newspaper from a different country and then seeing my own culture from the outside in, because they just named it. They didn't make it a big deal. They didn't hold back. They just told the story without the extras, without the emotion. They just very clearly said this word was used with an obvious intent as an allusion to the word that starts with an N. And then they gave some more context. Why was this word used? This word was used in reference to some of the people bringing cases involving the former president. These people, they just spelled it out. These people happen to be African American. Not only that, but likely given the area where some of the cases will be, some of the jurors will be African American. So then it's not so innocuous, is it? It's a word used to kill. Is that a leap for you to understand? You know, your body had the response. maybe. How do we leap there? How do we get there? The social worker Brene Brown has taught a lot about dehumanizing language and studied it. And I won't go too deeply into that, but I would like to give you some of the highlights. This is what we know from research. We know things. And you know what? We can look things up and we can do research. We can take in this data that we have, this raw word and the power of the word, and we can let those who research, and they can give us some ideas. Maybe ideas based on science and facts, and we can use those. Maybe those ideas won't cover everything, but they could cover some things. They could cover a lot even. And we know that dehumanizing language, which is what this is, it's a word used about a human that attempts to make them less human, to push them out of our one family. We are all one family. When we use words that dehumanize, it's an attempt to push them out of the family, even knowing that we're all one. So dehumanizing language, words like the one that starts with an N, but there are more, and you know them. Some of them may even seem innocuous to you. Words like Karen, Cheeto, cow, pig. They start to be a little bit more sharp when they're applied to us, don't they? Has anyone ever called you that? Has anyone ever called you a Cheeto or other snack food? Maybe not. Has anyone ever called you a Karen? Perhaps. It's not so fun when it's applied to you. It gives people a sense of power in applying it to others because it makes us feel higher. Dehumanizing language is the most significant driver of insurrection. It feels a little more real when I say that, doesn't it? Insurrection is a big and scary word in which harm happens. People can die. Political systems are destabilized. Dehumanizing language is the most significant driver of insurrection, and it starts with words. Words are used as a way of subverting our inhibitions about killing. There we are. We're back to killing again. We all know on a very deep level that we are one family. We know this in our bones. We know this inside out. And the impulse to kill another human feels unnatural to us. There's something in us that really can't do it. So in order to sort of suppress those inhibitions about killing, what humans do is try to push people out of the circle by othering them. We divide up into good and evil, those we like, those we don't like. And then we start to assign characteristics that are not human to those we don't agree with or don't like. Sometimes it's very arbitrary. Sometimes it's on purpose. Sometimes it comes out of a feeling of fear. At other times it comes out of a feeling of wanting to have power over. It's never helpful, no matter what your intention is. If you find yourself using dehumanizing language, even things you think are funny, back away from it. Dehumanizing language dehumanizes. And only when our fellow humans have been dehumanized does anyone feel okay killing them. It keeps coming back to killing, doesn't it? This is the power of words. Words have no meaning, and yet words can be used to kill. And this word that starts with an N is a word that is used to kill. Dehumanizing doesn't happen instantly. It's a process. It starts kind of small. I don't like that person so much. They're on my nerves. We'd like give them a nickname, or I don't want to say their name. I don't really like them. So, ha ha ha. There's Bob. What am I going to call him? I'm going to call him Barb because he's always getting under my skin like a barb. There, we've done it. We've dehumanized a person. It starts with language, and then it moves to images. In this case, the R word, used as an allusion to the N word, has already appeared in images. What are those images? Some of the images are one that I saw, because I did look this week, I wanted to understand, was the image of a baseball bat with the caption, "This is what happens when RIGGERS come to my town." Just a baseball bat. What is that supposed to mean? What do y'all think? Images. There were some other images, some a little even worse than that one. Others a little incomprehensible if you don't know the secret codes that go with them. There's something going on with Scooby-Doo's dog. I kid you not. It sounds ridiculous, and there's some kind of a code around, what's the dog's name? I forgot. Scrappy?
Scrappy.
Is it the dog Scrappy?
Yeah, Scooby's the big dog, Scrappy's the little one.
Oh yeah, Scooby's the dog. Sorry, no, I'm thinking of
dog.
Sorry. You forget these things over time. Right, it seems ridiculous. So then how is a dog, a cartoon dog, used to hurt? Yeah, ridiculous, and yet very real. There we are again, back to the world is vast and wide. It's just an image of a cartoon dog, a dog that we might feel some affection towards based on our childhood memories, and yet used to harm. The world is vast and wide. Why do we put on our 7-piece robe at the sound of the bell? Unity without differentiation is a false unity. If we just think vast and wide is enough and only, and get stuck, we're not paying attention. Where's your heart? Are you truly paying attention? Not only with your ears, but are you listening with your eyes? Are you listening with your whole body? How are you moving through the world? When we're listening with our ears, we can't tell. When we're hearing with our eyes, we are truly intimate. When we're really paying attention with every fiber of our being, hearts open, not stuck to our own ego, our own realization, our own ideas, but open. This is true freedom. And when we are coming from a place of true freedom, when these things come up, we can take it in and respond. In this case, we don't have to push away. Oh, they weren't talking to me. And I'm not sure that really meant something bad, but it's far away, nothing to do with me. Whatever you do to pretend, you can protect yourself. But rather notice, name it, and show up. You know, even before we put on our superhero capes, in our case, this one, our 7-piece robe that we put on at the sound of the bell, we have to show up in our own hearts by letting go of me and truly being present. And we start by acknowledging it, by hearing, by paying attention. And today, the way that we do that, at least for me, is this. We are all one human family. Everybody matters. Every single person matters. And in that human family, included equally, are people who are African American. And it is not okay to call them a dehumanizing word or to dehumanize them in any way whatsoever, because they're part of our family. They're fully human. See, we can do it. You probably already thought that. So then how do we enact it? How do we bring that into the way we meet this world? We start by sitting, letting go of all the me. And when we let go of all the me, we can truly hear. Where does our hearing end and the sound of the bell begin? How do we hear, not only with our ears, but with our eyes? Hearing with our eyes, we are truly intimate. One family. All in this together. Thank you.